What do you think that brands and dealers can do better to cater to collectors like yourself? We've at WatchBox, and Goffberg, we've tried to go more into social, obviously, have virtual collectors conversation, keep people engaged. What do you think is the future in that regard?
I think that the greatest thing a watch company can do for a collector or a consumer is to invite them to their manufacturing process, give them a tour of their location, show them their assembly, show them their dial factory if they have it, their finishing, and really just take them through the process of what's done. Because when you see that, you really start to appreciate the product and the company that's behind it. Because you start to understand, the blood, the sweat, and the tears that go behind it, and it really makes you respect and want to support the company. I think it creates that emotional connection that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about investing in your clients and consumers, I mean, all three of you have had the privilege to go to the Patek Philippe factory, and I think you would all agree. I mean, it is insanely. You get another level of appreciation once you leave there, and you see, everything that goes into the watches and everything behind the scenes. And there's not one person I have spoken to that's gone through that experience that hasn't walked away just completely just amazed with how incredible their operation is, what the attention to detail. I mean, that's something that I think puts them in terms of customer service. I mean, they're willing to invest, to make sure that people are better educated as to what goes into their watches. And I think that that's an incredible, priceless experience that they offer to people. I know, I think a couple of times a year over the last decade, they've taken groups from various retailers over to Geneva so that they could have be able to see all of that. So
I think their culture is a big thing too, George, to see their culture firsthand and see, who's actually working on manufacturing, designing, polishing, all the different components to your end product. I think it's to Mike's point, to go there and to experience that firsthand is very educational in a intangible way, in my mind.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, they're a family-owned company, and you can feel that culture there. You just feel like everyone's having fun. People are smiling, and it's very, very intimate at Patek Philippe, and I think that says something about the brand and why people love their product so much. It's that you don't have that corporate feel with them whatsoever.
You got to go there for the lunch, man. The lunch alone is worth the trip.
Very true. Executive boardroom, that food, it's not something you can get just anywhere here in the States, that's for sure.
Yeah. But then at the same time, you've got the cafeteria where you see Mr. Stern having lunch the very next day. One day he's having lunch with us in the executive room there, and then in the cafeteria with everybody else. And it's and that food's not bad either. Let's be honest, it's very well done. Very well presented as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys are absolutely right. I think creating that connection between the manufacturer and the client is incredibly important, and you leave with a much greater appreciation than maybe you showed up with. And I think, in current times, there's an opportunity to maybe showcase a little bit of that and showcase the things that make you different on your social media. And to get to put a little bit more of your story out there, because you've got, at this point in time, almost everyone's working from home. You've got lots of eyeballs and an opportunity to maybe capture just a few more of them out there on social media. So I think that's something that if you could take that virtually, would be neat. And it's a great experience to be able to do it for any brand.
Yeah, I think all brands have sort of been forced to go, towards social media. It's almost like it's awkward to not have a presence in some way, shape, or form. And then, they all can do it in their own different way.
I think one of the things, George, that that's going to be important going forward is, if we went back 5 or 10 years ago, you'd probably be, as a collector, might be pretty nervous about buying a watch online or dealing with somebody that you've never met or seen before, or you're sending your money off or giving them your credit card number. to somebody, on the other side of the continent or something like that, and how comfortable you might be in that. I think social media has helped with that. I think that you can see the people that are providing content, and I think the Goldbergs and the WatchBoxes of the world that are out there that that are putting forward a platform like that for people to take a look at and to be able to purchase from, and know that that there's brick and mortar standing behind it. I think there's a lot of comfort that could be taken from the collector, or consumer, in being able to deal on that basis. And I think that that's going to help fuel the pre-owned and the watch industry going forward too. I think that just like I said before, to make that first purchase and to make it online, I'm not so sure that people have the comfort around it. But once you can see what they're doing, see what's going on, you can forge a relationship, albeit maybe through email or through voice call. I think that that's going to be a game changer, and it's going to become more and more prevalent going forward.
Yeah, you definitely have to create peace of mind with the consumer and make sure they know they're comfortable, sending a lot of money, remotely to somebody.
Like for you guys, I mean, you're transacting business all the time, and maybe a collector starting off and he's buying, a $2,000 or $5,000 watch or something like that. But to him, that $2,000 or $5,000 is, like a lot of money. And for some collectors, that might be, not a very big amount. Like let's be crass about it and say it's not huge to them, but to some collectors, that's a lot of money. And for anybody to make an investment in a hobby that that they enjoy, and make a purchase like that, there has to be some comfort around it, or else it's not going to happen, I don't think.
Very true. All right, a couple more for you guys. What watch have you gotten rid of that you regretted the most? And or what watch did you pass on that you wish you hadn't? Shani, you want to start us off on that one? I know it's a tough one.
One that I got rid of that I regretted, I'll tell you what. One of my favorite watches, it's my Road Warrior, is my Panerai PAM 243, the submersible 1000. So that's my diver's watch. It's my swimming pool, my ocean watch, and I got one back in maybe 2007, and sold it. And then it really bothered me, and I ended up getting another one. So I have it now. So
nice. There you go. Yeah, I think all of us have been there. I've seen many people buy a watch a second time. I mean, it's interesting until you get rid of it. Sometimes, like the saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. That applies to watches. That's for sure. So you sometimes take it for granted. It's you're not wearing it. It's interesting. One of my biggest customers who has a huge collection tells me that oftentimes he finds himself not wearing the watches he's sure that he'll never get rid of, because he'll be wearing something to sort of like as a test drive. He's like, oh, I'm never getting rid of that. That's safe. That's I'll have that watch for forever. So I've always thought that was interesting. What do you think, Dave?
Oh, it causes too much pain, George, to think about it. But I've got rid of a couple watches that I wish I never got rid of.
What have you caught and released today, Dave?
No. I had a white gold Rolex Submariner that I wore probably every day for 2 years, or maybe more, maybe 4 years or something like that. And I wish I never got rid of that watch, but I did. That was one I certainly regret getting rid of. I mean, I could get it again if I wanted to, but it's just there was an emotional attachment to that watch. Another watch that I was able to acquire that I parted with was a FP Journe tourbillon platinum case with the Regent dial, and I was kind of new into the brand at that point in time, and I was able to acquire that watch. And it was the loudest tourbillon I've ever heard in my life. You could hear that thing from across the room, just that, click, click, click.
Yep.
And it drove me crazy. And yeah, I mean, it was a loud one. Like I've got a couple of other tourbillons, and they're not nearly as loud as that one. and I regret selling that watch for sure. But I know the collector who has it. He loves it. He looks after it. So I'm happy for him, for Jeff. But I'm disappointed that I ever got rid of that watch. As far as watches that I want to acquire, I can't let the cat out of the bag, because a certain retailer that I work with might know it, and then try to take advantage of me. So the collectors out there, but there's certainly things that are on my wish list. There's no doubt about it, but I can't disclose too much.
I respect that. Toddles, what about you?
Mike, I'm so glad you brought up Panerai, because that's one that's there for me. It wasn't a crazy watch, but it was the Panerai PAM 55. Titanium case, tobacco dial, manual winding, 3-day movement, time only, nothing fancy, nothing crazy, but just like a great watch. Like, if you think about like what a watch should do, and the only thing it really needs to do, it doesn't really need to do anything now. You've got a cell phone in your pocket that's going to tell you a more accurate time than the watch probably will. But like, as a watch and something with an emotional connection, like that giant case, the giant numerals on it, the fact that it had lume, the fact that it was titanium and light, and there's so many aftermarket strap makers for Panerai. Like, you could throw an infinite number of straps on it. You'd even throw a deep purple strap on it, and it would look amazing. Like, it would just look. So
Josh would certainly be proud of you putting a deep purple strap on a watch, Todd.
He would. I would feel like the Joker, but I'll let him do that. But that's a watch that I had for a number of years and wore all the time and traveled with, because it's sort of like you set it on the table when you go to bed at night, and you can pick it up, and you like don't even really have to do any thinking to know what time it is. Like, it's such a large dial, you automatically know. So that's one that I miss. As far as things that I regret passing on, there are a lot that come to mind, but I think the one that stands out the most is actually a De Bethune. De Bethune DB25 QP, platinum case, rose dial. Had an opportunity to pick up that watch, and regret not doing it, because I think that is one of the coolest watches out there. I think Denny Flageolet makes some crazy stuff, and that's a brand that I think just does amazingly cool watches.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know how great of a watchmaker he is. I think they need to make it more public that he's behind the genius behind the brand. I think they would get better sales traction if people were aware of that. I'm going to answer this one myself. I wasn't planning on it, but I'm going through my head as you guys are all talking about it. So I recently picked up a new sports watch that I love, and I got rid of my white side of the moon as a result. It's interesting, that watch, I've had a crazy emotional run with that thing. I wore it to the PGA with Omega a couple of years ago, kind of as I'm going to be out in the sun, I'm going to wear a white ceramic watch, kind of like as a joke, like fun. And I proceeded to buy it afterwards. I put it on a blue strap to make it a little bit, not as aggressive, all white. An incredible value. It's funny, I could pull it off. I mean, it's 44 millimeters, but it fit my wrist all right. And I got rid of it. And I'm like, that watch, I missed that. I always really enjoyed wearing that watch, and I'm going to miss, not being able to grab that watch for sure. And then Shani, I'm losing sleep still, not grabbing that resonance we had. It just wasn't the right time for me. And I was just thinking like, oh, I'm going to get a resonance at some point. And ever since that auction result at the end of last year, the resonances have gone bananas, and they're all tight. And
I thought it was a done deal. I
was there. I was like, I was first and goal inside the 10, and I just I don't know. Usually I don't balk like that, but that's one I regret. So those are mine there. So the last
George,
question. Yeah,
George, can I interrupt? I got to ask a question. Mike, Todd, what's your favorite 2-3 watches in your collection? I'm curious.
Mike, oh wow, that's a big question, because Mike's got some heavy duty artillery.
I know. I want to put him on the spot and ask the question.
Yeah, there we go. I like it.
Yeah, I would say if you want to talk about 2 very special watches to me, one would be the Roger Smith, the Series 2, which which I, custom designed with Roger, and had the wonderful experience of going to the Isle of Man and picking it up. And then the other one would be the FP Journe Jade Tourbillon, the reference TN. So the second series of the tourbillon. Jade has always been a stone for whatever reason that when I was very young, I've always really had an appreciation for this stone. And obviously it was, initially released in Tokyo. I bought it when I was out in Asia. I spent 3 years in Shanghai on an expat assignment, and it was kind of my Asian connection watch. So it was really special to me, and that's a watch that that I have, and I keep very covenanted, of course.
Well, that leads me to our next question, because that could be my grail. I absolutely love that thing. There's really nothing like it. I think it is good luck in Asian culture. Is that right? The stone, Shani?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just beautiful. For this next question, it could very well be that you wouldn't give up everything that you have, obviously, for just one watch. But if you did have to give everything up and you could have one of anything that's ever been made, what would that watch be? So you just have one watch, and it could be whatever you could possibly imagine. You get rid of everything else. What would that watch be for each of you three?
For me, it would have to be George Daniels, and it would be in George Daniels made very few wristwatches. I don't know the exact number; it could be in the 20s, but he made a beautiful it was a blue tourbillon wristwatch, and I would give up quite a bit if I could get my hands on that George Daniels wristwatch. Interesting.
I wouldn't have expected you to say that.
Yeah, I mean, George is, he's the godfather of independent watchmaking. He's a big influence to FP Journe. Obviously, Roger Smith. Roger was George's protege. So the history behind him and kind of the influence that he's had on watchmaking, I think is really special.
Yeah, you hear Pierre and FP speak about George with great reverence, and they're not quick to give credit to people. They have very high standards. And another one too, it's interesting. FP has said that Denis Flageolet is one of the best watchmakers in the world. So if he's saying he's good, whatever FP says, I believe when it comes to watchmaking, that's for sure. Toddles, I'm interested to hear your answer on this one. I could go any way. I'm like, I don't even know. I got to be sitting down.
I spent a lot of time actually thinking about this. When we last did a video, George, I said the Journe Grand Sonnerie, and that watch I think is incredible. It's a super cool watch. There's of course you could throw Grubel Forsey into the mix. I think they make some incredible watches too. I think when it comes down to it, if I had to give everything up for one watch, man, that's a really tough call. But if I'm honest, I think what I'd do is I'd actually talk to Kari Voutilainen and get one of his minute repeaters, because those things sound amazing. So I'm going to stick with the repeater theme, but I'm going to switch to Kari this time around.
Wow, interesting. Nice. I know he made you your wedding watch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's an incredibly cool guy. He's an incredibly interesting guy, and you can tell that his mind is always thinking about watchmaking. But he's made some incredible repeaters, and I think they're some of the best sounding repeaters that I've ever heard. So I think that's where I'd go.
Interesting. DT. This is another one. I have no idea.
George, I'm going to let you down. I'm going to let my friends down as well. I don't think I could. Like you, I thought about this over the last couple of days, and every hour it changes. I just I have to spend more time doing more research, to be honest with you. You know, I like Mike's answer and where he's going with that. I could see pursuing and chasing that for sure. But you know, like there's some pretty cool Pateks out there, and you know, there's some really cool Journes out there too. You know that you know, like I probably shouldn't say this, but I sent you a pic of a watch that FP was wearing back at the 1st of March when I saw him in Miami that I'd never seen before. And it was a totally cool watch. Like, I mean, it's a one of one, right? You know, it was a 42 millimeter aluminum centograph that he made for himself that has a yellow dial, right? Like it's the, you know, yellow was kind of the start for him, you know, the yellow dials with the gold dials. I mean, there's too many to choose from. I'd have to think about it, and I don't want to burn the brain cells on it, to be honest with you.
Right. No, it's definitely a tough question. I mean, for me, potentially the Jade Turb, but I think Patek Philippe's best watches, I think, are as good as it gets. I mean, at the high end.
George, I'm pretty sure you guys have a Jade Turb. So what are you waiting on?
Exactly.
Yeah. Are you gonna fund it for me? Yeah, that'll be whoever gets that thing will be a lucky man. That's for sure. I'll be very, very envious. I may or may not have locked myself in the safe, you know, just staring at it, have a private moment, seeing as you know, we may not have it for much longer. But in terms of where it was going, like you know, I look at some of these the Pateks like at the highest level, like a 5951 or a 5374, like a Cathedral Gong perpetual with the black enamel dial. Like they're gorgeous, and then no one makes a repeater, I think, like Patek. I mean, I haven't heard Akari, so I wanna hear that. But I think, you know, when Patek sends out their best, I mean, they're tough to beat. So I would definitely be considering, you know, some of their top-notch pieces too. But it'll always be evolving, that's for sure. This was super fun. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did as well. And you know, if we get good feedback, you know, we're the guinea pigs, right? So if we get good feedback, I have no doubt there'll be more of them moving forward. So thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, George.
Thanks
for having us.
I really appreciate this, George. It's great, but I really think it'd be fun at some point in time to get Pierre on one of these with collectors at the same time. That would be fun if you wanted to do one of those.
Yeah, it would be. I know he mentioned it. You know, he and I did that Instagram live.
Yeah, that was great.
People seem to enjoy. So maybe we'll do that. Get the brand perspective on here. Have a heated debate, you know, about something. That'll you know, maybe people will be seeing us again.